Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching, and this video is my Horus Heresy Age of Darkness box unboxing and build of a few of the models. If you don't want to listen to me wittering on about the unboxing and the rulebook and things, I'll put the times on screen now so that you can flick on to the part you might want to watch. So yeah, stick around and see what I talk about. Let's start digging into this box. Now, before I get into the actual box, just to go through this thing, which was in the bag that I picked up from my friendly local gaming store. Not something I knew that was coming. I think it's some sort of gaming token or coin type thing, little kind of fake leathery bag. Yeah, it's got a Sons of Horus, or Horus, whatever you want to call it, etched into the pouch there, and you see it. It's quite nice. Yeah, and it's a coin, so it's obviously the Sons of Horus icons there, so very nice. Let's get into the box. The first thing, it's a very chunky box. Not quite as big as some of the latest boxes like the Ash Waste, but that's still a fairly significant box. Pretty weighty. Good value kit. Now I suppose I'm opening this a bit later. This is we're dropping onto the channel a lot later, and you may have seen this from other YouTube peoples, but that's because I was away for the weekend of launch, doing a big game down in London with some friends, which if you follow me on Instagram you'll see that big 10,000 point game using my Death Guard against a couple of people's combined armies with a Warlord Titan. So yeah, a little bit late opening this up, but I thought I'd do it for the channel anyway, so let's get into the actual box. So you take a look at the back here. This is the reason why a lot of people are going to buy this, is that this, although painted in two different armies here, is ideal for making one Marine army. So 40 Marines, a couple of the characters, you've got your Spartan tank, Cataphractii Terminators and the Dreadnought. Now, the reason I initially bought this was to get hold of a Spartan. I've been thinking about it anyway for my Death Guard for 40k, and I've been thinking about doing some Contemptors. I've changed my mind since, and I am actually going to dive into 30k playing, but I won't build these Space Marines straight away necessarily, because the Mark III, which comes out next weekend, or this weekend coming up, depending when I publish, obviously, this video, they're the ones that I think are far more appropriate for the Death Guard, you know, the close-in fighting and the type of sort of combat that they're involved in. So that's what I'll be doing with these anyway. So I'm going to build the Spartan, the Dreadnought definitely, and some of the Terminators at the end of the video to take a look at, so obviously stick around for that. Now, lovely artwork at the front of the box. Very evocative, you know, the 30k total war bit, obviously with a dead Imperial fist there. It's always nice. Got the lid off and we'll have a look. So, the return of the whippy stick. Now this takes me back to my Games Workshop days, because every box set in the good old days came with these. Good stroke, bad old days, depending on how you do it. Now I have heard that this edition is based off 7th edition 40k, which is one of the editions I played the least. I did play at 7th edition, but not as much as I played earlier editions, or indeed, you know, 8th and 9th. Template, nice to have them back. I suppose very, very useful when you take the fact that these are going to be bigger squads and bigger games. So the Cataphractii Terminators. Now I've never built any of these myself, so I'm not sure if that is the actual Cataphractii Sprue and it's not changed, or whether this has been adapted. Normally you can tell because there'll be a year of, 2014. So these are obviously the old models that were in, I imagine, the Betrayal at Calth or something like that. So these are obviously the older miniatures. And it looks like you get two identical sprues. So there's your 10 Cataphractii Terminators. Nice multi-part kit. I'll probably bang one of these together for the purposes at the end of the video. So nothing different and new there. This looks to be the vehicle kit. So these are obviously all very, very new. 2021, they've obviously had these built for a while. And it looks like you get crew members to come out of the top. I think on the artwork it shows a Mark III in there, so quite appropriate. This is a lot of pieces for the kit. Actually, a lot of Games Workshop kits lately have been going for big kind of panels rather than lots and lots of pieces. But even here, you've got the end of las cannon parts done in multiple sections, so a lot of pieces to go in there. We'll look at the build instructions when we get to it. And then this looks like a kind of mix of the old and new style kit pieces. Nice wide tracks there for the Spartan. So Spartan is just a beefed up Land Raider. One of the reasons I wanted to use it for the Death Guard was to be able to transport a much higher proportion of Terminators than the normal Land Raider. So I was going to use it for 40k, but I said I'm going to dive into 30k, and I am going to do Death Guard. So watch the channel if you want to see how I paint these Death Guard things. Now that is the Dreadnought sprue. So I'll put that to one side for a bit and then we get the vehicle. So the vehicle looks like it's on 4 sprues, some quite nice panels. It does look like it's going to be a stacked construction, so looks alright. Actually, these look nice and crisp pieces, so look forward to that one. Again, we'll build that one at the end. Now the Dreadnought. So I don't know again if this is the old Dreadnought. Looking for dates on the sprue itself. And I'm either being daft, I can't see any. Alright, here we are. 2021. No, so this is a new sculpting. So that's fine. 2021 kit. Doesn't look like you get a huge amount of weapon options. You've got obviously the what I think are auto cannons, or you've got the twin las. So you don't get the Volkites, which does seem to be the one that's the popular loadout, but you do get heavy bolters, las cannons, a few other options there. So I suppose there's going to be, and multi-melters, there's probably plenty of opportunity for magnetisation when you build this one. So again, we'll take a look at that later point. Then we have the, now these are upgrade sprues, so we'll look at them in a second. I think the two characters come on two small sprues. Now there doesn't look to be sprue marks where these join together to indicate whether they're going to get sold together in a later pack or not. So I think these are going to come out, well, is it random, it's an absolute guess, but I would reckon these are going to come out as separate character models because this is not a combined sprue. So it depends how they stamp it out of the machine, I would guess. Quite curved there, that's come out from the press hot and bent a bit. Some interesting swords and weaponry there when we look at it, so some nice little pieces. And then there's the other one that, oh, they're actually identical. Now that's interesting. Now have I been given a misprint, or is that correct? Because I was under the impression that one of them comes with an axe. I think I may have actually been given a duplicate, because there doesn't seem to be a way of getting an axe for this one, so we'll keep looking through and we'll see if we're correct or not, whether I got a mispicked box. Now these are obviously the upgrade sprues for the tactical squads, 4 sprues of those, which is nice. So this is going back to very old school Space Marines, we like this, where you got all the different sort of pouches and packs and daggers and these things. I think they're called sarissas, aren't they, when you put a blade underneath the sword in that kind of style, but I might be entirely wrong. Bayonet things anyway. So that's nice, 4 of those sprues, and I imagine that corresponds directly with 4 sprues of Space Marines. There's actually 5, oh yeah, there's the rest of the vehicle. So obviously it is going to be quite a chunky kit, that Spartan. So bouncing back, you can see you've got different symbols, so it's nice. You've actually got the Eye of Horus on there, you've got the Imperial Fists eagle, so very nice. Put that back across there with the vehicle sprue. And then you have your 4 tactical squads. So that is everything dug through, actually, in terms of plastic. So I think I have got a mispacked box, because unless I'm being really, really daft, there is no axe on there. So yeah, I would be guessing. We'll look at the pictures and the artwork later, but I think I'm definitely going to mispack. This is a common thing. Obviously, we see this in all the latest boxes. A nice card sleeve just to stop the internals and the books getting damaged. So when we look at this here, no, this is not the contents of the box set, is it? This is just some additional things that will be coming out, because this is totally different to what's in there. And obviously you've got the extra vehicles. Now I didn't order the Kratos Heavy Assault Tank when it came out. Kind of wish I maybe did, because I didn't order it first thing in the morning, then pondered and thought, do I want to order it? And then my friendly local gaming store had sold out. Maybe I'll pick one up at some point. I'll definitely be picking up a couple of the Demos pattern Rhinos, again, because they're fitting very much for 40k, so I'll convert them and nurgle them up probably. But also 30k, I need to see how they work in the rules. And Sicarans are just a very nice vehicle in any case, so just a nice bit of artwork in there. Then we have the very chunky rulebook. Now I won't open this right now, we'll open this in a minute and we'll dig in a bit closer. That's a properly chunky rulebook. I like the black colour scheme, going back to some of the original rulebooks from many a year ago. A nice construction booklet. So this will tell us actually if that Praetor is the wrong. Yeah, it is, definitely. So when we look here, these are definitely different leg parts, because look, we have 2 and 4, we have 4 and 2 with different arms. So I think I've definitely had a Duff kit. Said it about 5 times now, I'm going to stop saying it, but yeah. Duff kit, never mind, we'll send off for it. And then we've got the instructions there for all these pieces. Very kind of Necromunda-esque, because you've got a couple of different ways of building each model, and it tells you to go along like that, which is nice. Nice to see the return of the back banner, going back to proper 40k. And it looks like a relatively sensible set of instructions, but I'll feedback more once I've built a couple of them. And nicely you get some of the Astartes rules, so this is what's obviously in the box. Now I have picked up myself the Liber Hereticus, so the good guy book. Anyone that says turn into chaos is bad, well, you're wrong. So I picked up the renegade book, shall we say, and we're doing that. But it's nice that you've got some rules in there. Okay, and just boxes of bases and a transfer sheet. Now the transfer sheet, so there's not going to be a whole lot of use for myself because I'm not going to be doing any of the contents of the box. So that's the box contents. So I'm going to have a now digging through the book, and we'll see what a first skim through the book looks like. This will be in no way a fully exhaustive look through this rulebook because this is a very thick, chunky, full-size rulebook which looks and feels very nice. But we'll go through it just briefly, give you an idea of what you're going to get in here. Are you going to pick this up and hopefully look at some of the pretty pictures that I'm sure are inside. That's our first look. On the back we get nice little reference sheet, something I always appreciate playing games with. Once you've run through the rules a couple of times, you know, your reference sheets generally can give you enough information. So this is important. I suppose you can free frame and read it, but we have turn summary, start the active player's turn, that's fine, movement, shooting, assault, and then the player's turn. So heard it's 7th edition, so that's fine. Movement characteristic. Okay, that's something different. So we're going to see what this all is. Perils of the Warp, obviously that still exists in 9th edition. It's interesting. Defensive weapons, close to the infantry unit. So there are definitely some different rules to learn between this and 9th edition. But I imagine if it is based off 7th, there's going to be some similar things. Back to a proper vehicle damage table. So obviously, current rules, vehicles just have a toughness. Going back to this edition, you can't try and remember what was going on. Vehicles you had to penetrate, then you're damaged. And that was great, yeah, because you immobilise a vehicle even on a glancing hit. You could make them immobilise and then crash. So actually a lot of the older rules back in. So don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's play a few games and we'll see. But it is interesting that they're doing, you know, an older version to reflect an older game. And the old weapon skill, ballistic skill tables, which is good because weapon skill 5 versus weapon skill 5, you get the 4+. It's all. This is back to what it used to be, rather than your weapon skill directly means what you get to hit. So current 40k, if your weapon skill says 3+, you hitting a 3 no matter what. This version, your weapon skill 3, but you go against someone who's weapon skill 6. It's really hard for you to hit them. So that's nice to kind of go back to that with what is, I suppose, the earlier version. So without delaying this anymore, let's have a very quick flick through the book and see what we get. So this is interesting. So the Imperium of Mankind, there's not the focus on the Eye of Terror or those things, because obviously, you know, the fallen Marines aren't in there yet. Always love that piece of artwork with, you know, Horus that's just killed Sanguinius and the Emperor coming in. Age of Darkness rulebook. So very feels like a nice rulebook, to be fair, straight away. And there is going to be obviously lots and lots of information on the age of the Emperor and everything. So Dark Age of Technology, Old Earth, when mankind obviously takes over the Earth before spreading out. So Dawn of the Imperium, so much to read here. So obviously in the background originally, it may have changed. The Emperor unified humanity with the prequels to the Thunder Warriors. Then the Thunder Warriors were brought in, unified the Earth, then went out and took over the solar system, and then started carrying on. So, and this will give you obviously the whole of the Great Crusade. Psycho Paradox, Imperium Mankind, very nice artwork. And what is interesting when you play, imagine an older system like this versus current 40k, they understand the equipment and technology, which is obviously not what 40k is all about. Primarchs, give you all sorts of different Primarchs, obviously in their days when they were all on the same side. Legions of Astartes. Again, just nice artwork. Wow, this is going to be, I will super quick flick, or else it's going to be hours. That's the Iron Armour. I think I mentioned before, I'm going to go for Iron Armour because I'm going to do Death Guard. I do Death Guard in 40k, but the mutated Death Guard would be really interesting to do the original Death Guard colour schemes. So, and it gives you here the different patterns of the armour and where we get to. Obviously it says here we're up to Mark 6 Corvus pattern, late in the Great Crusade it was issued. So fantastic. Oh, look through the armour marks, excellent. So Crusade armour, excellent. Iron armour, this again very Death Guardy. Mark 4 the Maximus armour. Heresy armour, obviously when they were falling, so that's interesting. Mark 6, this is the Beaky Marines, this is what you get in the box set. And we're going through, and they do give you some information on all the legions, excellent. So Dark Angels, for many years Dark Angels was my biggest army. I did nearly have a full chapter of Dark Angels when I was working for Games Workshop. Sold them off after I left. Man, I've never really gone back to them, so very interesting. Emperor's Children, 3rd Legion. Obviously this is going to skip the legions. When you go through, there'll be legions missing, and these are the legions that were deleted and never actually described in the background. Whether they ever do that at some point, I don't know. Iron Warriors, that would be a nice colour scheme to do, actually. Fairly simple. It looks fairly simple anyway, but to do the stripes and things can be very tricky. I did a 40k Iron Warriors army a while ago. White Scars, not an army I've ever actually done. You know, fast moving, lightning raids, that kind of thing. Space Wolves, I've done Space Wolves a few times, again very nice. We will flick. For Imperial Fists, there's going to be so much reading in this book. Do you know, I'm really impressed that they've done this to take you through all of them. Night Lords, yeah, very interesting character with some daddy issues there. I have read most of the Primarch books now, and they are very interesting books with a lot of good background. Blood Angels, obviously we know what happened to Sanguinius, that, killed by Horus, that made the Blood Angels suffer the Black Rage, as it's called. Iron Hands, again, really nice. Obviously already at this stage they're going into the idea that they've replaced a lot of their body parts with cybernetics. World Eaters, could be an interesting armour to do. One of the very, again, interesting white colour schemes that completely changed to red when obviously it fell to Khorne. Ultramarines, the you know, the famous blue boys that Workshop like. Death Guard, here we go. These are the boys that I'll be doing, unless I change my mind. But it'd be nice just to do a colour scheme where with only a couple of the sections of the green that they're renowned for that I do in the Force at the moment. So, and Mortarion I think is the best Primarch that you can buy from Forge World. Skip past the Thousand Suns, obviously psychic focused. Sons of Horus. And again, could be a very nice force to do. There's going to be a lot around there. Word Bearers, one of the major reasons that they ended up falling to Chaos, Lorgar, if you read the background books. Salamanders, again, the opportunity for sculpting on, you know, Drake skins and all that kind of stuff is very good. Lots of flamers being used. And Raven Guard, difficult to paint black. One of the more difficult colours to paint, even though you'd think it would be simple. Again, a tempting army to do and fits in very well with the kind of the Beaky Marines. So, and then Alpha Legion, the Alfarius model is actually the other Forge World model that I think I would want to do. Definitely one of the better Forge World Primarch models. Very interesting. Oh, and then it goes through the other things. So we're going through Sisters of Silence and obviously all the other units. Legio Custodes, as they're called. Assassins. Ordo Sinister. So obviously the massive weaponry that they use in those days. Some of the really big destruction engines. Solar Auxilia. Oh, that's some nice artwork. They really are going through everything, aren't they? And then talk through the Mechanicum. And obviously, if you've got Knights or you've got Titans and those kind of things, absolutely usable, I would imagine, in this. Whether there's rules for it or not, I don't know. But that's when, you know, they were still being freshly built and they knew what they were doing. Well, that's interesting. Demons of the Runestorm. For centuries, the Emperor had sought to deny the warp and its denizens, to bury legends and fears of old night. But obviously, that's not going to last, obviously. Pivotal elements of heresy, a really good timeline. Oh, I like this. Actually, a very detailed timeline. I suppose when you play 40k, it gives you brief bits of information about what went on, but there's a more detailed timeline, given the fact that these are events that are currently happening. So that's nice. That is good. Wow, lots of reading. And this, to be fair, even if you never intend to play 30k, there's enough reading in here to keep you entertained. So core rules. See how long I'm in the core rules. Is it going to be too long? Oh, it's a fairly chunky set of rules, actually. This looks to be where the core rules. Now that is a lot more rules than what you get from the current edition. Because obviously they slimmed it down, tried to make it a little bit easier to play. Whether that's worked or not with all the blokes, we don't know. But so you've got movement, weapon skill, ballistic, strength, toughness, wounds, initiative, attacks, leadership, and armor saves. So obviously that's the same kind of statistic profiles, but you're going to work in some different levels, I would imagine. Yeah, general principles, cock dice, all this is as 7th used to be, but we're bringing back blast markers and templates. Now, I'm not going to go through this because, to be honest, I will be here for hours, but it looks like a very comprehensive rule set. Now, you would imagine, because 7th got tweaked to death, then it got turned into the first edition of 30k or Horus Heresy, and then they tweaked it again, that this should be a fairly tight rule set. So I would hope it would be, without, you know, some of the glaring gaps and holes that can have there. So ballistic skill of 6 or higher, so that's interesting. Oh, now it gains a reroll whenever it rolls a 1 to hit with shooting attacks, so that's interesting. And its second roll needed to hit, so 2, 6, whatever. So back to a little bit more in-depth rules. Instant death, yes, it's back. I loved this. I mean, there was something great in the old rules about, you know, belting a Space Marine captain in the face with a Thunderhammer or something equivalent and just killing them. So the strength characteristic of an attack is at least double the toughness. Gains the instant death special rule. Basically, if used to 0, wins removes the casualty. So it is going back to older rules, which would be good, because when I dig into this, it'll mean that I'll probably understand a lot of it. But I'm sure there are obviously things that have changed as well. So charge distances, maximum charge, determine charge distance of any or 2d6 and add the charge modifier as shown in the table below. Ah, that's good. Result of the roll may not exceed a total of 12 or minimum of 2. So your movement characteristic is between 1 and 4. You get -1 to your 2d6 roll. If your movement 13, you get sped up. So good, little adaptations. So it's going to be take a little bit of learning, but a nicely laid out. Unit types. Oh, unit subtype, interesting. Skip past characters. So a lot of rules to go into. I won't bore you. I keep wittering now. I don't want to turn into a wittery set. But ramming a knight or titan. Okay, so clearly there's rules for knights and titans. How we shoot with knights and titans. What we do. So definitely expanded into a big game. Battlefield terrain. Lots of terrain rules. Good. And then all the expansion weapons and what keywords will mean in your book. So good that is all in there. And just some of the nice Asteriuses we have here. And now we're into the artwork stuff. Now this sometimes can be the best part of any book. Looking at other people's armies to get inspiration, see what you might fancy doing yourself. So some lovely pieces here. Again, looks like it's showing every army. So Salamanders, Word Bearers, we've got the Night Lords there. Raven Guard, come on, where's the Death Guard? Oh, Death Guard, that's what we like. With Mortarion there with his scythe. So again, it's very strange looking at Death Guard without mutations and all those kind of things. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of fun though. And different modes of play: open play, match play, team play, how you prep for battle, army sized, what you would get. So it's fine. That's interesting. Maximum combined Lord of War or Primarch value. So it restricts your Lords of War, which I assume will be your Knights and your Titans, and restricts your Primarch value. So that's good. That's an interesting way of breaking it up. And your force organisation charts. Allies, that's very old school. Good. And then we're back to more artwork and some terrain ideas. That's obviously a plague burst crawler before it got the plague. So I like that. I'm going to look forward to doing some of these things in my Death Guard and probably try and, in a way, match what I do in 40k but in 30k. And then we have there's lots more deployment ideas, scenarios, and missions. So superb. Right, that was an incredibly quick flick through. And you got all your psychic stuff at the back, but I don't want it to be too long just on the book because this is far too much to absorb into one video unless I spend 2 hours or whatever. But maybe in the future I might do a how to play or something like that if anyone's interested or if I'm interested, and then we'll do that. But that was a nice book. Now let's get on to sticking some models together and just doing a bit of a show and tell on the models that are in here. But on the first flick, I would say it's a very nice looking book. It looks laid out really well. Nice mix between background and actual rules in there, so quite impressed so far with it. How it plays, maybe I'll report back on that some other time. So now onto the build. I'm going to whiz through the kind of build process, doing it super speed. I wish we could build models this quick, it'd be amazing. I would say generally the models have been really nice to put together. There's a definite shift in this set towards more multi-part pieces. A lot of the big box sets that Workshop have done over the years have moved to this kind of push to fit easy build models, and there's a positive of that in terms of you can get them on the table quickly. I suppose it cuts down the cost of the box set for Workshop. Lots of other positives. This set seems to have gone completely the other way and gone into really, in some senses, far too many parts for each model for a box set. But that's great, I suppose, for the conversion and potential in some senses. However, I think with the Spartan, these could have been done in much bigger panels. I think there's a lot of parts just for a side panel, like you see in here, just on the tracks, and then on the outer panel, that you think surely it could have been done quicker. Not that that's an over complaint, because once they're built, they're great, nothing wrong with that, but you just think they've gone from one extreme with minimal parts and easy build to the other with tons and tons of parts. But that's just a lot of personal opinion. They do go together nicely, and again, what I would say though is, when you're doing it, just think about the stages you're building it in, because you've got to make these panels match together. And if you let a panel set, for example, without finishing the assembly part, and it sets completely, like these two side panels are going to glue together now, if you were to build one side one day and the next side the next day, and you need to perhaps flex the panel to make the sections join properly, and you've let it set, that's going to make your life more difficult. So I would really think about the stages that you build this in. Try and finish one part before you finish the other. Now, here's another frustration I've had quite a lot with Games Workshop lately. The instructions are here. You're building this, the las cannon kind of housing. Shows you put the two parts together, tells you to stick it on the model, but doesn't show you where. Says this is now finished, and doesn't reference that part again until several pages later, where you're putting the hull together. Now, obviously, I skipped forward and looked for the instructions and put it together and made some common sense, but I think they're going to confuse people that aren't, not expert models necessarily, but aren't really kind of fluent with building models. I just think they've got to get better at their instructions. Now, the positive was, I didn't find any misnumbering in this set where, a number on the piece is not relating to the number on the sprue to compared to the instructions. Now, that has been a common problem lately. Now, I'm really pleased that didn't happen in this set, but they do need to be a little bit tighter with their proofreading the instructions. So just a little niggle for you to watch out. Now, see here, I've gone against the instructions slightly because I've put the two sides of the hull together, or two sides of the tracks onto the hull before I've put the tracks on. Now, the reason for that again is the hull was flexed slightly, so you will need to flex it around to fit and match into the two track parts, and I didn't want the hull to fully dry once I'd assembled it. So I did that to make sure it would go in, and I'm glad I did, because I think if I hadn't done that, it wouldn't necessarily have fitted together quite well. So just another thing to watch for when you're putting it together. Now, the Cataphractii Terminators, these are obviously kits that have been around for years, relatively nice to build. I've chosen to do them with the similar equipment loadout with my Blightlord Terminators for 40k, so I'll show you those kind of at the end. But they went together absolutely fine. I'll just showcase one of those later. Now, the Contemptor Dreadnought, nicely marked, nicely labelled, instructions are relatively clear. An awful lot of parts though. Again, I said before, for going from push fit and easy build to massive amounts of parts on a kit, the parts of this model did just feel like they could have halved the amount of bits they used, because you were almost building those parts, and there was posability in things in there, definitely, yes, there were some advantages on that, but it almost feels like for the average person that's going to build this kit, and you've got to think Workshop are creating these models for people from 9, 10, 11, 12 upwards, could be a little confusing and a little bit fiddly, but do you know what, went together nicely. I really like the model, absolutely fine, but it was a fairly time consuming build because of the volume of bits in there, but again, very nice. I like Contemptor Dreadnoughts. I've not done one before. I have multiple times considered doing one for 40k and sort of nurgling it up, and I am absolutely sure I will. I've also, in between opening this box and building these, I've ordered some Forge World ones, so I've got a Forge World Death Guard Contemptor coming as well with the two Volkites, and that's probably a drawback in the kit. You don't get the Volkite culverins in there, and really you've only got the one arm that can be used with the ranged weapon if you want an identical weapons fit. Now, you could easily build it with a las cannon on one arm, heavy bolter on the other. The parts are in there for you to do that, so you don't have to build it with the fist. I thought I would, because it's just a little bit of variance, little bit of interest, and I've gone for the heavy flamer fit. Now, just showing you again here, when you put these on, there's an awful lot of posability, and here again is the magnetisation potential. So the weapons are held with this like little pivot pin, You can see with the circle. Now what I would do personally, if I was going to magnetise everything, is I would kind of chop off that circle, stick a magnet where that circle kind of is, and then drop another magnet into the weapon before you stick it together. You've got these little kind of socket places there that it seems like they've, you know, ideally done it for you. So tons of opportunity for magnetising the weapons on, and you do get a plethora of weapons again. Just unfortunate you don't get the Volkite there, and I don't know if that's because they're trying to push you towards Forge World for the Volkite kits, or whether they're going to do an upgraded one where you can get the Volkite parts on this later. So I think it's a shame that one of the key weapon fits that people seem to go for, and again I'm only judging this on what people seem to go for, having seen pictures of armies and whatever, but you can't necessarily do that. But a lovely kit, a bit of flexibility, and again if you've got 2 kits, I'm sure you could you know, do 2 of these, you know, one with 2 las cannons, one with 2 heavy bolters, whatever, and there would be some options you could do, and I'm sure this is going to come out separately. But a very nice little model, went together quite well. I am going to do mine with some Death Guard customization eventually for 30k, some symbols and things, and if you've watched the channel before, you know that I've got the Death Guard Forge World Rhino doors that I've used for 40k, so I'm going to do some bits of casting up and things, and really converting these towards Death Guard. But a very nice build, nice models. So now have a look and just do some size comparisons and just some closer shots of the actual finished models. So here's the finished ones. Before we get into actually picking up the finished models, just show you what's in the sets in terms of spares. I always like some spares. This is the vehicle sprue that goes with the Spartan. You can see this sprue is going to be used in multiple 30k vehicles. It's not just for the Spartan, because there were pieces that were never referenced, and the same with the weapons kit there. So there's some las cannon housings on that sprue that you never get referenced in the instructions. So there's definitely going to be use for this in multiple kits. Lots of spare weapons, again on the Dreadnought sprue, which is great, and you can do that. So I always like spares. You know, bits boxes are a great thing to build up. Now looking at the Spartan overall, this is a beautiful vehicle. Really impressed with how it's gone. You can see the elements of Land Raider that are in there, but you've got the extension to it. I've gone for a full las cannon fit, really pleased, and I've gone with a las cannon fit on the Dreadnought as well. Look, beautiful models, great value box set. Even if I was not going to do anything with the rest of the contents, these figures and the rulebook make this box set good value in my opinion. Scale wise, you can't really use these for 40k, I don't think. When you compare it to the Blightlord Terminators, these Terminators are a smaller scale. You could use them, obviously they would expand in terms of when they get demonic possession or whatever, but they're definite different scale. So I'm pleased that I've made the decision that I'm going to do this as a 30k force. So keep an eye on the channel, and you will see these gradually get some paint on them over the next few weeks, and as I delve into Death Guard for 30k as well as my 40k stuff. So that's the ramble and waffle over. Anyone that stuck with this whole video, thank you very much. Hope you liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz, and I'll see you again.